December 7, 1941, dawned, like any other day at Pearl Harbor, but at 7:48 a.m. the sky filled with the roar of Japanese aircraft. Over 350 planes from 6 carriers launched a surprise attack targeting the U.S. Pacific Fleet to cripple American power in the Pacific. Torpedo bombers skimmed low over the water, dropping modified torpedoes that exploded against ship hulls. Dive bombers screamed down, releasing armor-piercing bombs. Fighters strafed airfields, destroying planes on the ground. Battleship Roe bore the brunt. USS Oklahoma capsized, USS West Virginia sank, and others burned fiercely. Alarms blared as sailors scrambled to anti-aircraft guns. Smoke billowed, oil slicks ignited, creating a hellish inferno. The attack lasted less than 2 hours but inflicted massive damage. 2,403 Americans killed, 1,178 wounded, 21 ships damaged or sunk, and 188 aircraft destroyed. This date, which will live in infamy, as President Roosevelt declared, propelled the U.S. into World War II. The assault was meticulously planned by Admiral Yamamoto, exploiting intelligence and innovative tactics. Amid the chaos, acts of heroism emerged, sailors rescuing comrades firing back despite odds. Pearl Harbor's strategic importance made it a prime target, shifting global dynamics overnight. The aftermath would test American resilience, leading to unprecedented salvage efforts to revive the fleet. At 8:06 a.m., a 760-pound armor-piercing bomb struck the USS Arizona near turret number 2, penetrating decks and detonating the forward magazine. The explosion was cataclysmic, equivalent to over 1 million pounds of gunpowder, lifting the ship out of the water and tearing her apart. Flames shot 500 feet high, and the forward section collapsed. Within 9 minutes, Arizona sank to the shallow harbor bottom, her superstructure mangled and burning. Of the 1,512 crew, 1,177 perished. Many trapped below. The blast shockwave damaged nearby ships and threw debris across the harbor. Oil from ruptured bunkers fueled fires for days. Survivors recounted the horror. Deafening roars, scalding steam, and comrades engulfed in flames. Rear Admiral Isaac Kidd and Captain Franklin van Valkenburg died on the bridge. This single event accounted for nearly half of Pearl Harbor's fatalities. Arizona became a tomb for most of her dead, their bodies unrecoverable due to the wreckage. The sinking symbolized the attack's brutality, but it also ignited American fury. In the hours after, rescuers pulled a few survivors from the water, but the ship was beyond saving as a whole. A gun silent, Arizona's hull settled in 40 feet of water, a grim reminder of the cost of unpreparedness. The USS Arizona, a Pennsylvania-class super dreadnought battleship, stood as a symbol of American naval power in the early 20th century. Commissioned in 1916, she was one of the most formidable warships of her time, measuring over 608 feet long and displacing more than 31,000 tons. Armed with 12 14-inch guns in 4 triple turrets, she could unleash devastating firepower. Her thick armor belt protected her vital areas, making her a floating fortress. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, Arizona served in the Pacific Fleet, participating in fleet exercises, goodwill tours, and modernizations that kept her relevant. By 1941, she was moored at Battleship Roe in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, a bustling naval base that housed much of the U.S.B. Pacific Fleet. Crew life aboard was a mix of routine drills, camaraderie, and anticipation of potential conflict as tensions rose with Japan. Little did the 1512 sailors and Marines know that December 7th would change everything. Arizona represented American strength and resolve, a legend in the making. As the sun rose that fateful Sunday, the ship lay quietly, her decks alive with morning activities. But beneath the calm, the world was on the brink of war. This scene sets the stage for the tragedy and the heroic efforts that followed, honoring those who served on this iconic vessel. The Arizona story is one of valor, loss, and enduring memory, reminding us of the cost of freedom. As the attack subsided around 9:45 a.m., Pearl Harbor was a scene of devastation. Ships listing, fires raging, and wounded everywhere. Rescue teams sprang into action. Sailors from undamaged vessels, civilians, and medical personnel rushed to help. For USS Arizona, efforts focused on extinguishing fires and searching for survivors. Boats circled the burning wreck, pulling men from oil-slicked waters. Divers plunged into the murky depths, facing hazards like leaking fuel and unstable debris. They tapped on hulls, listening for responses from trapped crew, but few were found alive. Over 900 bodies remained entombed. Firefighters battled blazes for 3 days, using foam and water pumps. The harbor's hospitals overflowed. Triage stations treated burns, shrapnel wounds, and shock. Amid grief, determination grew. Admiral Kimmel ordered assessments of damage. Initial surveys revealed Arizona's hull too mangled for full recovery, but salvageable parts like guns were noted. The Navy mobilized resources. Welders, cranes, and pumps arrived. This phase marked the shift from chaos to organized response, with crews working tirelessly. Heroes emerged, like diver Edward Raymer, who braved toxic gases. The aftermath unified the nation, with enlistments surging. Pearl Harbor's spirit of resilience began here, laying groundwork for the massive salvage operation that would revive much of the fleet. By mid-December 1941, the Navy established a formal salvage division under Captain Homer Wallin to refloat and repair the fleet. For USS Arizona, full revival was impossible due to the magazine explosion's damage, but partial salvage began in early 1942. Crews used floating cranes and divers to remove the superstructure. Masts, bridges, and twisted metal cut away with torches for scrap. The aft turrets, numbers 3 and 4, were extracted intact, their 14-inch guns repurposed for shore batteries on Oahu. Divers worked in hazardous conditions, low visibility, oil contamination, and risk of further collapses. They pumped out water from compartments, cleared debris, and recovered equipment like rangefinders and ammunition. Over months, hundreds of tons of material were salvaged. The operation employed innovative techniques like patching holes and using compressed air to lift sections. While ships like USS Nevada were refloated and repaired, Arizona's hull remained submerged as a war grave. This effort symbolized American ingenuity, turning defeat into comeback. By summer 1942, much of the fleet was operational again, thanks to round-the-clock labor. Salvage not only reclaimed assets but boosted morale, proving the U.S. could rebound. Arizona's partial recovery honored her crew by reusing her might against the enemy. One of the most somber aspects of Arizona's salvage was body recovery, lasting into 1943. Divers entered the submerged hull, navigating dark, gas-filled compartments to retrieve remains. Over 100 bodies were recovered initially, but most of the 1,177 lost stayed entombed due to dangers. Identification was grueling. Dog tags, dental records used amid decomposition. Funerals honored the fallen, with burials at nearby cemeteries. Simultaneously, material salvage intensified. Ordnance, machinery, and artifacts like the ship's bell were removed. Hazardous materials, like fuel and explosives, were safely extracted to prevent accidents. Crews repurposed steel for war production. The operation faced challenges: tropical heat, equipment shortages, and emotional toll on workers hearing stories from survivors. Yet progress was made. Arizona's guns fired again from coastal defenses. This phase blended reverence with pragmatism, ensuring the ship's legacy contributed to victory. Artifacts preserved history, like the hatch now in museums. The effort highlighted human cost, with salvage teams often pausing for moments of silence. By late 1942, major work concluded, shifting focus to memorialization. Recovering what could be saved revived Arizona's spirit, if not her form, in the fight against Japan. By 1943, assessments confirmed USS Arizona was beyond economical repair, her keel broken, hull warped from the blast. Raising her would risk disturbing the war grave and cost millions needed elsewhere. Navy leaders, including Admiral Nimitz, decided to leave the hull in place, decommissioning her symbolically. Instead, she became a memorial to the attack's victims. The superstructure was fully removed, leaving the outline visible in shallow water. This choice preserved the site as a poignant reminder of sacrifice. In 1950, Arizona was recommissioned as a shrine with a flagpole erected. The decision reflected respect for the dead and strategic priorities. Resources went to building new carriers. Public sentiment supported it. Visitors began paying respects. Over time, oil still leaking from bunkers symbolized tears of the fallen. This phase transitioned from salvage to honoring, with annual ceremonies starting. Artifacts like the anchor and guns were displayed in museums, educating generations. The non-raising preserved authenticity, allowing divers to study corrosion later. Arizona's story evolved from tragedy to tribute, embodying resilience. Today, it's a National Historic Landmark, visited by millions, ensuring the legend lives on without revival. Post-salvage, numerous artifacts from USS Arizona were preserved, each telling a story of honor. The ship's bell, recovered in 1944, now resides at the University of Arizona, rung during memorials. The 16,000-pound anchor is displayed at the Arizona State Capitol. Gun barrels from salvaged turrets are at memorials nationwide. These items were meticulously cleaned and restored by experts. Museums like the National World War II Museum house hatches and portholes, educating on the attack. In recent years, efforts intensified. DNA identified remains from 2015 onward, reuniting families. Artifacts symbolize revival through memory. The USS Arizona Memorial, built in 1962 over the wreck, attracts 2 million visitors yearly, with exhibits on salvage. Preservation involves ongoing maintenance. Divers monitor hull integrity. In 2025, Navy removed decaying concrete platforms from 1942 salvage to prevent collapse using modern tech like underwater drones. These actions ensure the site's longevity. Artifacts bridge past and present, honoring the crew's sacrifice. Through them, Arizona lives as a lesson in history, courage, and peace. Collecting and displaying these pieces revives the legend, keeping Pearl Harbor's memory alive for future generations. In the 21st century, preserving USS Arizona focuses on structural integrity and environmental impact. The hull, still leaking 2.9 liters of oil daily, poses pollution risks. Booms contain it. NPS and Navy collaborate on monitoring using bioremediation. Recent operations, like 2025's removal of 100-ton concrete mooring platforms installed in 1942 for salvage, prevented potential collapse onto the wreck. Divers used cutting tools and cranes in a delicate operation, respecting the gravesite. Advanced tech, sonar, 3D modeling, tracks corrosion from saltwater. Climate change threats, like rising seas, prompt adaptive strategies. Visitor education emphasizes respect, no touching relics. Annual December 7th ceremonies include survivor testimonies, though few remain. Projects identify unknowns via DNA, with over 100 reburied since 2015. These efforts revive Arizona by sustaining her as a living memorial. International partnerships, like with Japan, promote reconciliation. Challenges include funding and tourism balance, but commitment endures. Modern preservation honors the past while educating on war's folly, ensuring the legend inspires peace. Arizona stands as a timeless sentinel in Pearl Harbor. The USS Arizona's story culminates in eternal honor, a legend salvaged from tragedy. Though not revived as a warship, her spirit endures through memorials, artifacts, and memories. The Pearl Harbor Memorial straddles her hull, allowing views of the sunken decks, a bridge between past and present. Over 1,000 crew remain interred, guarded by the Navy. Annual wreath layings and bell tolls commemorate the fallen. Survivors' reunions, though dwindling, pass the torch to descendants. Arizona inspires books, films, and education, teaching resilience. Her salvaged guns, fired in World War II's end, symbolized poetic justice. Today, as a UNESCO site contender, she draws global visitors reflecting on peace. The title, Salvaging and Reviving, captures not physical restoration but spiritual revival. Through honor, we keep her alive. Let us remember, freedom's price is steep, but memory ensures victory over despair. visit, learn, and honor the Arizona's crew. They gave all so we might live free. This legend, born in fire, shines eternally.